Hey there, everybody. Good to be here with you on a Monday morning. Well, you'll see this later in the day, probably on Monday, but I'm taping early Monday morning. Hope you had a decent weekend. We know there's still so much going on in the world. If you are just landing here on the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Stick around. Hope you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm a Fefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. If you're not familiar with me, I am clearly a tarot reader. I'm also a former newspaper journalist, and I'm an initiated priestess in Wiccan and African traditions. So, I got a few things going on in my history, my background, and I try to use all of that to give you all some good contents, mostly politically related. Um, Here's a couple of things that Spirit led me to go to the cards with you all today. And by the way, I so appreciate your presence. Had an incredible meeting last night with my members, my YouTube members. I do meet monthly as part of my bonus offering to membership. I meet monthly privately live with my YouTube members. If you're interested in becoming a member, please check the description box below. Would love to have you on board. Second quick announcement. Uh, Practical Magic Using Tarot Part 2, which will take place. The workshop will be on Sunday, February 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can get all the details on my website, trulytouchedbytarot.com. And you look on the book online part and you'll see the services offered and listed there. Would love to have you on board for that. Even if you didn't take part one, the recording for that is still available. But I set the sessions up that they're not dependent on one another. So you can come in on part two and be just fine. But again, if you want the backup and see what happened in part one, I can make sure that happens for you. So check it out. I would love to have you there. I'm getting tremendous feedback using tarot in a more empowered way, not your standard readings, but actually deliberately using designing your readings, your spreads, your grids to manifest, to do some good juicy magic. So we'd love to have you on board for that. All right, let's get down to some business. This thing with the Fed Chair Jerome Powell, we knew it was coming. He's been mumbling about that for a while. What's really interesting, I saw a piece this morning before I started taping that said recently in the press, what do we call him today? I don't know, Frump. Let's just stick with Frump. Frump told a reporter point blank, and has said numerous times prior to this December 29 thing on the record. I don't know if it was a formal interview or whatever, but he said, we are considering a lawsuit. We're considering subpoenaing Jerome Powell. We're considering going after him. Point blank out his mouth. Now that the news broke over the weekend that in fact that is what's going to happen, he told, I don't know anything about it. Don't know anything about it. Right? but that's par for the course, right? Ain't the first time it happened, won't be the last. Like, says it out one side of the mouth, on tape, on video, on film, and all of a sudden, I don't know what you thought you saw or heard didn't happen. Wow. But here's the thing. I want to go to Spirit and find two things. I feel I'm wondering, is he deliberately, bear with me, you all, as wild as this may sound, is he deliberately trying to push for a stock market crash, to get his way, to take over the stock market, to take over the banks, to take over, to have more influence in that realm, right? We know that back in a while ago, Spirit had me do a reading on Jared Kushner and his involvement in some foreign banks who were making U.S. interests, like building, spreading and having their banks do business in the U.S. Right? So there's a connection there as well. Spirit. Part of this going after, part of Trump's decision to go after and replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell, is he planning to crash the market and therefore crash the dollar and therefore take over? Because there's a part two to that question that's coming up in a moment. There's a King of Wands. I almost feel like this is Powell, because, Powell already came back over the weekend and was like, you know what? I keep telling this man, I'm not afraid. You know what I mean? And I saw some people say they wish that Powell will go and get Abby Lowell and or Tish James to represent him, right? Oh man, would that be amazing? Or Jack Smith. Oh my God, can you imagine? All right, the Five of Cups, the Nine of Cups, and the Magician. Okay, this, yeah, I feel like he is trying to create. We know when we see magician energy in this political context, he's trying to create instability in the market because he thinks number one, talking about Trump, he thinks number one that will just to stabilize the markets and correct course that will get people to be on board with whoever his replacement is. And I think he's already talked about somebody he wants to replace Powell. I'm sorry, I don't remember who that name is. Feel free to leave it in the comments if some of you are already familiar with that. But that's it. He wants to create instability in the market. That's his desire, the Nine of Cups. But he also recognizes with that Five of Cups, I think that's the King of Wands. I think this is Jerome Powell, who, on some level, as much as he's ready to fight back and stand his ground, and as he always has done, ever since over the past year, that he's constantly been targeted by Trump, he's disappointed. What a way, what is he, 70 something years old now? Stellar career, really highly regarded. And so that's just he's sorry to have to launch, have this fight on his hands at this juncture. And he was on the way out anyway, if I'm not mistaken. And there's healing that comes in this particular deck. They have a special card for healing. I'm using, by the way, for those of you who are interested, Secrets of Paradise Tarot. He sees, this is Jerome Powell, he sees something coming that is going to require a lot of healing within and stabilization within the markets. Is that what I'm seeing, Spirit? Three of Cups. Yeah. He's seeing this is what will be eventually a resistance to what Trump is trying to do. I think Powell recognizes that overall within the global banking system, we already see the markets that are responding, going down, tanking because of this happened last year when he started going after Powell, right? So he sees a repeat of that. And I think the Three of Cups is typically that's a very joyous card. It's a very celebratory energy, but I think that's saying at the end, this plan to tank the market is not going to go over. People are losing money, and you're talking about now you're affecting not only people working with their 401ks, etc., but you're talking about the billionaire, the oligarchs who he promised to hook up the whole time. And there's four, they call it the God. That's him. I want to take a look at that. I want to cross that. This is him. Is he going to have to back off of this? Or will his efforts to crash the market fail? Ace of Pentacles. Yes, if you're with me, and I love that it came in Pentacles, money, right? We're talking about the markets. So that is, two things are happening. One, I think Spirit is confirming for us that his plan is, I will destabilize the market if I have to in order to get rid of you and get my way. But the other part, but Spirit is saying with that Three of Cups and Powell being who he is, as influential as he is worldwide and certainly within financial markets, this is not going to go up like so many things that Trump comes up with to seek and search and destroy. This is not going to go over well. The impacts are way too great. The risk of the economy and what this will do to the economy in an election year is way too great, you all. So we're going to see some funky stuff happening in the markets, I think, because that's what he wanted to have happen, to get rid of Powell. But the end result of this is not going to go over. It's not going to go over. There's going to be some sort of intervention, whether that is people who support Powell. If in fact Powell has to testify, he is being subpoenaed to testify over his handling of finances around the Federal Reserve's buildings. Remember when they were at the construction site last year and Trump was talking out of his head, and Jerome Powell corrected him. Really when he decided to go after him, right? We all know it. We all saw it coming. But this is not going to have it's not going to go according to plan. But the other part of that I want to look at, check it out. Bill Pulte, remember him, head of the what is that agency? Federal Housing Finance Agency. He's the one who went after this concocted this whole mortgage fraud thing for entertainment purposes only. Concocted this whole mortgage fraud thing around Tish James, which she beat it. He was talking about going after Adam Schiff, and the idea was that they were taking out loans and making misrepresentations about their actual residence. But on Thursday, a few days ago, Frump told Pulte, I want to make sure I get my facts straight now. He said he told Pulte for the agency to buy $200 billion in mortgage bonds. And that is something that typically the Fed helps regulate through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, government sponsored mortgages. So Frump told Pulte, go get $200 billion in mortgage bonds, something that typically, again, would have been under the Fed's purview, right? Is this man planning to try and take over the housing market? Right? He's selling it as to say, if we do that, if we buy these bonds, then we can make housing more affordable. We know the affordability issue is going to be really, really big and already is, especially in 2026 elections. So he's saying we can do that. Remember as well, he came up with this brilliant idea floated this 50-year mortgage. Hammer came down on that. Like, who's going to spend, the bulk of their life trying to pay off a house, supposedly then with lower interest rates and lower monthly payments that you pay the rest of your life? That reminds me of going way back in the day, y'all, when I was real broke. I'm telling my age here. When I was really, really broke, and I remember my first apartment, I was doing good to try and make the rent. I didn't have money for furniture. Remember those rent-a-centers? I don't know if anybody ever did that, but those rent-a-centers where you could get a decked out apartment with nice furniture in it. It wasn't well made, but nice furniture in it, but you paid forever. You wound up paying 19 times what the furniture was worth. That's how this feels, right? The promise of these mortgages and lowering rates. But I want to confirm, Spirit, is that what he wants to do? Is he planning to take over the housing market? It's specifically through these loan programs, the tower. He wants to break it. Ooh, and Temperance comes right behind it at the bottom of the deck, as does the Magician. I'm not going to ignore that. I never ignore Major Arcana. That's what he wants to do. Creating the Magician. Where is it? Creating a shift, Temperance, change in how the market runs. Tower, Mars. Basically, take it from the Fed. Because as an independent agency, he's deeply resentful. That's why this whole fight with Powell has been happening. He's deeply resentful of the independence of that agency and that they do have the power based on that independence to resist his demands. And that's the line that Powell has been holding especially over the past year, right? And that wasn't their first go round. They got some history. But that's what Spirit is saying, you all. He's trying to create that instability so that he can take it over in that Temperance card. Alchemy, a card of change, a card of alchemy. And that change comes by trying to dismantle the current system. Buying those bonds, directing Pulte to buy those bonds so that he can essentially take over that function from the Fed. And by default, then, people's homes, taking over the friggin' housing market. Real estate baron that he always was, right? Oof, that had a hard time coming out of my mouth. All right, the last thing I want to take a look at, you all, is we know the health situation. We know the gut feeling that so many people have around, like, how much longer, right? How much longer? We got the playlist, we got the champagne on ice, or the frozen cider, or the chilled cider, whatever the thing is. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. I think that writing is pretty much on the wall. But in the incremental steps that we see in the meantime. Now on Friday, while those oil magnates Mobil couldn't get out of there fast enough, right? They went there and they were like, we're not putting billions of dollars in this scheme you've concocted for some crude oil and infrastructure that, like, who's gonna do? You want us to pay for all of that? Exxon Mobil couldn't get out of there fast enough. I don't know what Conoco is gonna do. Chevron's already there, but we know that is tanking, and this Venezuela thing is gonna play out very, very interestingly. We'll look at that a little bit later. But those oil execs couldn't get out there fast enough. But you saw him get up out of the chair in the middle of the meeting of these billionaires assembled for this meeting around oil and investment supposedly in Venezuela. And he gets up and goes and looks out the window at some dirt for his little construction projects, and said, looking at some dirt, isn't that just beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Those execs were like, can somebody get my plane ready? I'm out. I'm out. That was really, and these public displays of this downward momentum are going to they're going to increase for sure. We know that. But I am also asking about his mobility. He apparently had a really tough time on Air Force One, which was heading for some over the weekend. It might have been yesterday, Sunday. And apparently the plane was hitting some turbulence. Caroline Levitt, who apparently is pregnant, should have been somewhere, go sit down somewhere. She's standing there right on his shoulder, grinning as usual. And he's telling the reporters, we're going to have to keep this short because I know that we're going to hit some turbulence. But he was like panicked about it. Like, he's in that little area we always see him giving the interviews from. There's nothing really there, no handles for him to hold on to. How often are we seeing him clutching, step by step, trying to get on and off of Air Force One, off of the planes? I am getting a sense that he's losing his mobility, right? Like literally so not only the mental faculties, but are we going to see Spirit in the next, I'm feeling before summer, an advanced reduction in his mobility. The Nine of Pentacles, his weight, the high priest they call it, but that's the Hierophant. His ability to function. So certainly in regards to trips, remember Susie Wiles promised that he was going to be on the campaign trail hot and heavy in 2026 because, the base needs him and these candidates are going to need him, which secretly we're seeing them go, I don't know if I want that endorsement right about now. But that's what that is. We will not, that plan to continue to put him hot and heavy on the campaign trail, moving him around like that, not happening. That Nine of Pentacles shows that it's building up, whether it's the ankles, the arteries, the it feels like it's a cascading situation with him. The King of Cups feels like his doctor, maybe. Doctors advising him or trying to treat him. And this is King of Swords. Yeah, this is him and his Gemini. I pull him one of two ways. When I'm really looking at him in his capacity, I get the Emperor a lot, or in his ego. But this is him in his body, King of Swords, Gemini. And that this is the doctor trying to treat him because there's some advancement. There's 12, the Hangman. It demobilizes him. That's the Hangman. Somehow or another, he gets demobilized, and whether that is actually, I don't know, is it severe enough, like wheelchair bound, healing, ooh, like laid out. Is this by April? I know timing is rough, you all. I know. Bear with me and bear with all of us readers. This timing situation is the roughest. Judgment. Pluto. Transformation, perhaps. Laid out. I was talking about becoming less mobile. I'm not laughing. I really was not thinking like that kind of not mobile, but that might be the kind of not mobile we're looking at. Judgment, that's no joke. Pluto and healing and the universe, the world, end of it. All right. I'm being told go ahead and close this out. It is what it is. Take from that what you will. Never wishing anything bad on anyone, and always for entertainment purposes only. That I'm thinking, wheelchair, or like they got him propped up somewhere, mumbling or whatever. That I was thinking that kind of mobility, but Spirit is looking at some other kind of mobility. We'll see what happens with that. All right, you all. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Please don't forget. Please hit that like, subscribe button. Leave a comment. Even that helps the algorithm. Helps it get out. I appreciate your support doing that. If you can hit the hype button. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And check out my classes. Check out the description box. Visit the website. I've also got a special, a reduced rate for an hour-long reading with me for your year in 2026. Just a personalized, customized reading to take a look at your year in 2026 using your personal year and some other things that I use to do that. So if you're interested, again, that's quite a bit cheaper than a discounted rate from my typical hourly reading rate. You can get all that information on my website on the Book Online page, on the Book Online tab, trulytouchedbytarot.com. All right, I'd love to have you and meet with you and connect and see what Spirit has to say for you. Meanwhile, our new saying in 2026, we're going bigger: sky above you, earth beneath you, stabilizing, soul within you. Sky above you, earth beneath you, soul within you. Know who you are. Know who you are. Know why you're here. All right? And I will see you in a couple of days. Take really good care of yourselves. Thanks again. Bye.